Over 1,000 people lost their jobs this week at Epic Games. The company that built Fortnite, the one that runs Unreal Engine, the engine that you might be using right now, just gutted its workforce for the second time in 3 years. And CEO Tim Sweeney came out and said, don't worry, it's not AI. But here is the thing. That answer is way too convenient. And I think the real story is a lot more uncomfortable than Epic wants to admit. Let me set you in context. If you're a 3D artist or a game developer, Epic Games is basically infrastructure. They make Unreal Engine, the real-time 3D platform that powers everything from AAA blockbusters to indie films in virtual productions. They also own Fab, their asset marketplace, and of course Fortnite, which for years was a money printer. At their peak, Epic was worth $32 billion. They had billions in revenues. Tim Sweeney was positioned as one of the visionaries on the metaverse era. So how do you go from that to laying off over thousands of people while still generating billions? Here is where actually it gets interesting. On September 2023, Epic cuts 830 people, about 16% of the workforce. Sweeney blames lower profit margins of Fortnite. He says they spend more than what they actually earning. Most people just shrug it off. Big company, one bad year, fine. Fast forward to March 2026, they do it again. Bigger this time. Over 1,000 jobs. And Sweeney says, and I'm quoting directly, the downturn in Fortnite engagement that started in 2025 means we are spending significantly more than we are making. Plus another 500 million in cost cuts, contracts, marketing, closing open roles. So we are looking at 2 massive rounds of layoffs in less than 3 years. That's not a correction, that's actually a structural problem. And let me be direct here, mostly about the decisions that actually they kinda got them there. The first decision is that they massively overhired during the COVID boom. Fortnite exploded during the lockdown. Epic saw hockey stick growth and did what every company does in that situation. They hire aggressively to match it. The problem, the pandemic growth wasn't really organic. It was people sitting at home with nothing else to do. When the world reopened, engagement normalized, and Epic's headcount didn't. The decision number 2 is that they bet big on the metaverse, and pretty much at the wrong time. Remember in 2021-22, everyone was screaming metaverse everywhere? Epic raised $2 billion from Sony and Kirby, significantly to fund their metaverse vision. They were building virtual concerts, experience digital worlds inside Fortnite. And to be fair, some of it actually worked, but a lot of it also didn't. And by the time it became clear that the metaverse hype cycle was kinda collapsing, Epic has baked that vision into their entire operational model. Epic bought Badcam in 2022, a music platform for reasons that they were never actually entirely clear in the context of a game engine company. And then they sold it back again in 2023, the same year that they had the first round of layoffs. So that's kinda not a strategy, that's, to be fair, a distraction. And to be fair, their worst decision is that they missed the attention shift. Fortnite's decline started in 2025. Why? Where did the players go? Well, TikTok, Roblox, mobile, short-form content. The 12-18-year-old demographic that made Fortnite a cultural phenomenon didn't stop gaming. They just fragmented across 100 different platforms. An Epic response was kinda slow. They had some updates, new seasons, crossover events. They kept doing what worked before instead of fundamentally rethinking what engagement looks like for the next generation. Here, we come back to the next question that is about AI. Now, let's talk about what Sweeney actually said about AI, because this is where I think he's been technically honest, but strategically misleading. He said the layoffs aren't related to AI. Alright, fine. Let's take that at a face value. The 1,000 people being let go weren't replaced by AI tools. But here is the question he actually didn't answer. Did Epic's competitors use AI to outmaneuver them? Think about it. Roblox has been using AI to power user-generated content at a scale for years. Mobile games are using AI for dynamic content personalization, infinite engagement loops. The companies eating Fortnite's lunch are companies that build AI-driven retention into the core product. Meanwhile, Epic was running season passes and crossover skins. And on the development side, every studio that adopts AI tools for asset creation, animation, Q&A, and playtesting has been able to operate leaner than studios that didn't. Sweeney said that AI isn't to blame, but not adapting to AI fast enough, that's a different conversation. And here is actually why I'm making this video, because a lot of you are 3D artists, developers, people who use Unreal Engine pretty much every single day. And the question you should be asking is, what happens with Unreal Engine now? Honestly, I don't think Unreal Engine is going anywhere. It's too important for too many studios, too embedded in too many pipelines. But the pace of development, the roadmap, the support, well, that probably is going to feel the cuts. When you fire over 1,000 people, you're not just cutting dead weight. You're cutting institutional knowledge. You're cutting the people who knew why certain systems were built the way they were. That debt gets paid later. The second thing, and this is actually more important, is what Epic's situation tells us about the broader industry. And this is not an isolated case. Restorm cut 100 people this month. Cloudhead Games cut 70% of their staff in January. The list keeps growing. The era of infinite hiring fueled by pandemic growth and cheap money is kinda over. And what survives? Linear operations, people with specialized skills, people who can do more with less, and that increasingly means people who know how to use AI tools intelligently, not people who refuse to touch them. Epic Games builds something remarkable. Unreal Engine is generally one of the most impressive pieces of software ever made. And Fortnite, as it's big, was a cultural movement. But the decisions they made over hiring, chasing the metaverse, betting everything into one aging game, ignoring the attention economic shift, those decisions had consequences. And the people paying the price aren't Tim Sweeney. They are the artists, the engineers, the developers who showed every day and did their work. So yeah, the layoffs aren't related to AI, but they are related to a company that didn't move fast enough in a world of AI, mobile, and short-form content completely rewrote. And remember that, because the same forces that hit Epic are coming for every corner of this industry. And if you are not adapting, you are on the wrong side of the next layoff announcement. That's it for today. If this hit different, subscribe. I covered the business and craft of 3D people who actually care about where the industry is heading. So I see you in the next one.